People of Earth, your attention, please.
Hi, I'm Dirk Maggs. I'm producer of the last 3 phases of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, also the first 2 series of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. I've been described as the Boswell to Douglas Adamss Dr. Johnson, which is, I don't know who they are either, but I had a very fortunate experience of not only making a new series of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from Douglas's books, but also I remastered the first 2 series, which were produced by the late and very great Jeffrey Perkins and Douglas himself. I was really excited to be asked to remaster the first 2 series of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In radio terms, it's kind of being asked if you'd like to shine up the Ark of the Covenant or repaint the Sistine Chapel. The trick is not to repaint the Sistine Chapel in a shade of magnolia or try to wallpaper it. Just leave it and just clean it. So that was the trick. I really just wanted to recreate the sound as Douglas and Jeffrey Perkins heard it coming through the speakers and during the mix sessions for it. I was able to peel away the layers, get back to the original sharpness, correct the speed because it was slightly faster on the reissues than the original version. The result was something that I really enjoyed listening to because it had that extra layer of sound effects that were kind of lost in the muddiness of analog sound, and it also had the sound of the voices as I knew them. Because when we worked with on the later series with Arthur Dent, Simon Jones playing Arthur Dent, he sounded a little bit deep voiced to me for Arthur Dent, and I commented at the time that you sound very deep for Arthur Dent, and he said, well, it's my normal voice. And of course I realised that by speed correcting, his normal voice had always been that level. So it was a sort of archaeological mixture of archaeology and picture restoring, and it was a terrific job. The original radio series of Hitchhikers has been voted Audiobook of the Year, and the reason for that is because not only is it timeless as a work of, if you like, literature, that's not quite the right expression, but it became a book. It works on so many levels, but also because the production techniques were so ahead of their time. Up to that point, the Radio Light Entertainment Department didn't know what stereo was. They did everything in mono. This was recorded in stereo by Simon Brett, the first producer. And when Jeffrey Perkins came aboard, who was a genius in his own way, the first thing he did was get the Radiophonic Workshop involved in making the sound effects and so on. The Radiophonic Workshop was a sort of cutting-edge technology at that time. I think the thing about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the timelessness of it is because Douglas wrote outside of any recognisable time. Douglas was a larger-than-life character. He was huge. He was about 6'8", and he was a larger-than-life mind. He was a huge enthusiast for things, and I think what Hitchhikers did for Douglas was it legitimised his ability to think outside the box, and he revelled in the idea that his ideas were taken seriously, no matter how daft they were. And it was someone who you met. When you met Douglas, you met a sort of giant combination of Einstein and a 10-year-old kid who just got a new toy, because he always had something new. You'd go in his house and he'd say, look, I've just bought this new left-handed bass like Paul McCartney's, or hey, look at this new CD player, it's all made out of perspex and you can't see any wires. It was this sort of joy of life and joy of technology and so on, tied to someone who at the same time was writing serious science fiction, because there's a lot of serious thinking in Hitchhikers. You start the first episode with the destruction of Earth, and the one surviving human being, or as far as we know in the first episode, the one surviving human being is let loose on the galaxy, and he's let loose in a spaceship. He soon ends up on a spaceship which actually is independent of all reality. It's got an improbability drive, so literally it can go anywhere in any time or space. It's much more than the TARDIS ever was. So you've got something where his imagination is allowed to roam free, but he's not just a science fiction writer. He's a great inventive writer. He's got wonderful ideas for machinery that can take 40,000 years to think up the ultimate question, life, the universe, and everything. He's got a machine that will give you a cup of tea if you're lucky, but you have to argue with it first. The secret is, and I share it because it's a great secret, is that audio, radio, stuff like Hitchhikers is actually better without pictures, because the auditory nerve is the side door to your imagination, and if you allow the pictures to come in that way and not that way, they will broadcast themselves onto a wide screen in your imagination, and your brain is the best picture generating machine on the planet. This is what makes audio so much the most visual medium you can ever experience. I can't tell you how great it is.